Hey, this is Joel. Welcome back to another video in the Visual Basic Tips and Tricks series. This one isn't too good, but I thought it was semi-interesting enough to do. It has to do with dynamically creating a control, which of course means you don't put it on beforehand. You can run the program and then add it. So, for example, let's run this. I will click Create Buttons. Boom! You have kind of like a... I shortened the length, obviously. But this is the same setup as you would have on a calculator. And if you click, hey, look at this. This shows you what button you clicked. So how do I do that? All right, let's go in the form one. Here we go. Okay, so I did a private. You can name them whatever you want. I just did button dynamic. I have 10 of them because, well, yeah, there's 10 of them. Complete is only for the create. You don't want to recreate them over and over again if they're already created. So it starts out as false, and then when you create them, it then becomes true, right there. At first, I was only going to use a variable for the y coordinates, and then later on, I just decided, oh, screw it, I'll also use a variable, excuse me, for the x coordinate. And then to get the exact numbering as they do on calculators, I decided to use an array of strings for the for the text of each button. So, all right, so we have the button create click, which creates the 10 buttons. Now, before you can create that, but before you put anything inside, what we should probably do is do the event handler, which is a click handler. So down here we have private sub dynamic button click, and as you see, it doesn't a lot of like here, we'll go up here. Handles, we don't need that right there because we have an add handler which will give the address of the dynamic button click, so we don't need anything after the last parentheses. Okay, so I'm doing if complete equals false, so it only happens one time. I did C's for counter, 0 through 9 because base 0, so 10 buttons is 0 through 9. So button dynamic C equals new button, has to be new. The text is in here. The array, of course, is C, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, through 9. So I just decided that the very last button, you could do this different ways, but I decided if C is less than 9, then it's 0, or then it's sorry, it's actually well, it's 1 through 8, I guess. No, 1 through 9. Anyway, it's not 0, the last one. So they'll just be 23, and then on the very bottom, this is the width of 3 buttons. So when it reaches 9, that'll actually be the number 0. And the button length, as you saw, is the length of 3 buttons combined. Location, you have to have a new point. So I'm using the X and Y, of course, the BD button dynamic, X button dynamic Y. Text align, middle center, doesn't really matter except for the very last one, so I just make them all middle center. I did have an if-then using a mod 3 to choose when you do a carriage return, basically, and a line feed, more or less. But it didn't quite work that way, so I switched it to select case, which does it perfectly. 3 buttons, then underneath 3 more, then underneath 3 more, then underneath the last one. So, okay, add handler. So you have the button dynamic C, of course, because you're adding it to each button. Each button is determined by C, button 0, button 1, all the way up to button 9. Click, comma, address of, and then the button dynamic click that we have here. And then, for the longest time, I tried pressing the button, here I go here, create buttons, and nothing would happen, so I had to look around and finally found me controls add. Me, of course, is form 1, basically. I didn't change the name of the form, so it's just form 1. And then you put in the new button that you created, and it will add it to the form. Okay, then the 4 and then the next. Complete is now true, which means if you press create buttons, it won't do anything because if it has to be false first and it's true, so I'll just skip the whole thing. So then, okay, how do you play with the, how do you control the buttons that get clicked? Well, one thing you gotta do is you dim a variable, any name you want, and you do a direct cast and you put the sender and you cast it to a button. So now this is the button that was pressed. Okay? So what I'm doing here is, I named, here, I'll go back over here, this right here, I named it label digit. So the text of that is equal to the text of press button, because press buttons now represent the button that was pressed, so you can do dot text, and you could just make them equal to each other. So that's pretty simple, pretty easy. I'll, wait a minute, go over here. I'll leave this here for a second. Actually, you can just pause, look over all the code, and I'll scroll up in a second to give the rest of the code that's not showing. So, okay, we'll go up a little bit. Okay, there's all of the create one. And then we'll get on one more time. And for the click. Excuse me. So anyway, pause, study, and there we go. Another Visual Basic tip and trick. All right, see you for the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.